Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite imagery, you can see the next storm system this morning moving up on the southeast coast. A couple of lows back to the west there, big circulation right in this area. All the cold air coming down from the northwest, feeding into that, developing waves on this front, and they move northward. This second or third in the series, first one having moved through and up to the north. That's what brought the clouds in over south central Alaska today, as you can see across the Copper River Basin from Northway, right down and across the Kenai Peninsula. A lot of cloudiness here back to the west, and then that northwest wind flow pulling the gusty winds, still gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour into the afternoon here from the Alaska Peninsula. Back up portions of the outer coastline here, the southwest coast to St. Lawrence Island. Winds diminishing now over the Pribilofs, the whole pattern shifting eastward as this front drives into the western Aleutians and Bering Sea. See the back edge right there pushing in towards Shemya, and a little bit of rain with that, and breezy conditions, small craft advisories along and ahead of the front, and that beginning to drop the winds off eventually here over the eastern Aleutians this evening. And as I mentioned already, occurring over the Pribilofs as high pressure edges its way eastward. And otherwise, you can see quite a bit of clearing here along the North Gulf Coast into the Gulf of Alaska, also on the lee side of the mountains, and into the southeast interior, pretty clear, or some partial clearing anyway, from Old Cordova up into the Kennecott-McCarthy area. Arctic coast, not too bad on the winds, but a lot of widespread, or just a lot of clouds, areas of light snow and fog extending right up to the Brooks Range there. Mostly cloudy, some scattered flurries or snow showers here over the northwest, but those gusty north winds continuing to blow through the Bering Strait. And we'll see again this front pushing eastward, and that's what's pushing the entire pattern off to the east here. Mostly to the south. In fact, low pressure developing right in here. That's going to take off and just pass to the southeast of the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, so that could pick up the winds. Could see some small craft advisories out of the east. Looks like that'll be passing just to the south, so strongest winds won't be all that strong again, just maybe in the small craft advisory range. That's really going to lighten the winds up along the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow, and also back up along the southwest coast. On the chart today, here's a front coming northward, pushing into the southern areas, now lifting northward, and some of the rain changing over to showers down to the south, with rain spreading northward up over the northern areas. 24-hour rainfall amounts range from about an inch at Annette to a quarter of an inch up at Juneau. Sitka at about 2/10 of an inch with this, so not a real big rain producer, but or wind producer either, mostly just small craft advisories there with the front as it moved northward, southeast, 15 to 30 miles an hour. And a few scattered showers here along the North Gulf Coast, that in the form of rain or snow along the western Alaska Range, and some scattered snow showers. Again, the gusty winds continuing here up to 40 miles an hour or more in gusts back along the North Gulf, or back to the coast there, right up to St. Lawrence Island. And then east-northeasterlies 10 to 20 up along the Arctic coast and North Slope areas. There were some gusty winds over the interior. Indian Mountain seeing northeast winds gusting to 25 miles an hour. And in that 10 to 20 mile per hour range back to the east there, over toward Fort Yukon, high pressure ridging from the Russian Far East here right down and coming in toward the eastern Aleutians this afternoon ahead of the front, which will bring rain eastward, possibly as far east as Nikolsky by tomorrow morning. So it should be a pretty fair night, developing with those winds coming down dramatically later this evening for the eastern Aleutians, winds becoming light for the Pribilofs, and also a decrease in the winds for the Alaska Peninsula and back along the southeast coast there, with the strongest winds now shifting a little bit to the west from the Bering Strait westward over to the Russian Far East. Brooks Range northward, that's you'll see the clouds with the areas of light snow continuing, beginning to pick up the winds a little bit there along the eastern Arctic coast and the central areas later tonight. And then this area of moisture sort of beginning to enhance here starting late tonight, and that'll continue into tomorrow. But the area clearing shifting up over the southeast interior, pretty nice up through the eastern interior, and looks kind of rainy and windy. A couple of waves moving northward here. Here's the next one that will be working its way northward late tonight and tomorrow. It should track right up the coastline here, so it looks like it can only bring small craft advisories to the south coast as it pulls northward during the day tomorrow, with another round of rain coming with it as the front pulls up. And then this front back to the west really doesn't look like it's going to bring much moisture with it, with a boundary coming up along the North Gulf Coast. There's a chance of showers, but most of the rain looks like it'll stay off to the east or to the south in that northwest flow. And a little bit colder air, so chance of rain or snow showers. Pretty isolated there over Kodiak Island, and still some moisture along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then some snow showers possible along the Aleutian and western Alaska range, and areas of flurries with partly to mostly cloudy skies out over the southwest interior. And that'll extend up to the northeast there, same pretty fair. Nice conditions, Kobuk Valley out toward Kivalina, much of the Seward Peninsula, maybe clearing out a little bit here on the eastern Arctic coast with increasing easterly flow, with the IFR conditions staying along the central and eastern Arctic coast through tomorrow, but those winds picking up. Gales tomorrow from Old Barrow eastward there for the east side, winds picking up to 35 knots. Lighter winds, Kotzebue Sound out through the Bering Strait. Again, the windiest area staying back toward Russia. And then here's the low tracking just south of the eastern Aleutians with the rain. Could see some small craft advisory easterlies with that as it pulls just to the south there, and showers back behind along the Aleutians. And then the northwest winds picking up a little bit here across Kodiak tomorrow and up into the Barren Islands. And as this front pulls up, small craft advisories, not gales, are likely here for the north or the central and eastern North Gulf coastal areas, more in the 10 to 20 knot range for the areas to the west. And pretty nice day here for Cook Inlet. Variable clouds, look for an increase in the clouds late tomorrow afternoon. And then it looks like as this moves up, another development down through here. This trough will move up to the northeast late tomorrow night, and then tomorrow night another one will develop here. And then I'll pull back up to the coast throughout the late hours Sunday night and during the day on Monday. Should move to a position about like this, so I'll bring some showers or rain into the Panhandle. Showers here up along the North Gulf Coast, and with the low center pulling back to the west, cold air coming back in around. So bring some rain and snow showers, lower snow levels coming into southern Cook Inlet, and better chance of clouds and some moisture over much of south central Alaska, to a lesser extent up over the interior. But from the Alaska Range westward, a pretty good area of some light snow developing. Also out here over the Bering Sea, pretty widespread area of snow, and the winds now redeveloping here with this low center was one back over the eastern Aleutians. That's going to drop down to a position not too far from where the one moving in there tomorrow afternoon will be, and that one on Monday will be right there. So the winds are going to be redeveloping, but again a little bit farther to the west with a high ridge back farther over the western Bering Sea. And then gale force winds now the entire stretch of the Arctic coast from well, at least Cape Lisburne all the way over to Demarcation Point, 35 to 40 knots, maybe gusts of 50 miles an hour, and still snow, clouds, but maybe to a lesser extent up toward the Brooks Range. Still some moisture here over the eastern areas possible with some light flurries. The central interior Tanana Valley not looking too bad. A chance of some scattered rain or snow showers over the Copper River Basin, and again down into the trough along the North Gulf Coast. That'll be the best chance of rain, especially in the morning hours, changing over to more of a showery condition. But now the low pulling back as I mentioned, right over northern Cook Inlet. Temperatures today along the southeast coast, upper 40s to lower 50s. 52 at Klawock, 52 also at Wrangell. Skagway up to 46, 51 over at Yakutat, 52 in Valdez. 42 Anchorage, 48 at Homer, and they picked up about 0.04 of an inch of precipitation the last 24 hours, about the same in Kenai. 48 up at Talkeetna in the Susitna Valley. Copper River Basin, mid-20s, Gulkana, 24 this afternoon. 11 degrees warmer at Northway with 35, and a nice 40-degree reading at Fairbanks. And at Denali Park, coming up from just below zero this morning, they rose to 21 degrees this afternoon. Tanana up to 32. Farther to the north, Bettles 36 degrees. 18 Arctic Village. The Arctic coast mostly in the teens to the lower 20s. 32 though in Kotzebue, and about the same, or it was the same at 4 p.m. 32 also at Nome, as well as St. Michael. Unalakleet 31. 30 degrees there at Anvik, and McGrath 31 degrees with Sleepmute 34. Same thing at Bethel, 37 at Macoriac, and a 32 degree reading at Savunga. For the Pribilofs, lower 40s this afternoon, 42 degrees in Unalaska, mid 40s central Aleutians, and a little bit warmer at Shimia. Upper 30s to lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. And for the lows tonight, upper 40s over the southern southeast coast, lower 40s to the north, upper 30s along the North Gulf Coast, and drop into the teens and 20s into the interior here, and definitely teens, single numbers and teens up along the Brooks Range. And also again, the clear areas over the interior will drop again down below 10 degrees, and 20s for the most part out in the west, 30s over the Bering Sea. For the highs tomorrow, upper or lower 50s there over the southeast coast, and near 50 around the Juneau, Haines, and Skagway areas. Cordova, lower 40s, and then about the pattern here south of the mountain, south central Alaska, lower 40s, upper 20s, lower 30s there for the Tanana Valley, and areas back to the southwest near freezing over the Kuskokwim Delta. Teens to mid-20s for the Brooks Range and Arctic coast. Flying weather, IFR again in impulses with each front moving northward. Clearing out, and then more coming in with the next front rolling up, and some IFR here in the Gulf of Alaska, mostly over the eastern areas. VFR, Prince William Sound, and then a developing area, marginal VFR tending to increase tomorrow, especially tomorrow night, and then expanding westward on Monday with that area of snow with it, and then lower conditions along and over the eastern Bering Sea continuing with areas IFR here along the Alaska Peninsula, definitely along the eastern North Slope and Arctic coastal areas, and then breaking out with the ridge, more IFR sliding eastward with that front coming in toward the eastern Aleutians. IFR in the northern entrance of both Anaktuvik and Adigan tomorrow, VFR to the south. Marginal VFR, Lake Clark and Merrill at times, mainly in the western entrance, but that whole pattern tending to increase. Ceilings coming down throughout the day, clouds increasing, chance of snow showers. Same thing for rainy, might become a little more widespread on Monday. Windy VFR, Isabel VFR, Mentasta VFR, as well as Tanita and Portage, and optimistically Chilcoot and White VFR. For the freezing levels, here about 2,000 feet, that southeast flow aloft of the trough right through this area, but those northwesterlies aloft coming eastward there, so pulling it down to about 2,000 feet, Kodiak Island, and a frontal boundary associated with the upper jet there over the southern southeast coast, where freezing levels are up to 68,000 feet. Icing threats, look for a band to push eastward here, again toward the eastern Aleutians, and then kind of rotate back to the west, but lifting north of the Aleutians tomorrow. Areas of scattered icing out over the southwest coast to St. Lawrence Island, as well as up over the Arctic coast, and then heavier icing possible in advance of the frontal boundary there associated with the jet, which is up to about 120 knots. Tonight will be more over the pan, and it'll begin to shift east tomorrow as this trough finally swings eastward into the Gulf of Alaska. And at 9,000 feet, northwesterlies, only 20 knots tomorrow. Still could see some 25 knot winds early over the Alaska Peninsula. Light and variable here under the trough axis, southeast, maybe up to 30, 45 knots there. Southern southeast coast, easterlies on the increase along the Arctic coast, 3,000 feet. You can see that more vividly 30 to 40 knots there, strongest on the east side, but pretty light here. Southwest interior into the Bering Sea. Southeasterlies 25 to 30 knots. Again, small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast. And still a little brisk there from Bristol Bay down across Kodiak Island. And that low sliding eastward over the eastern Aleutians should keep the strongest winds to the south. Turbulence-wise, maybe some light to isolated moderate chop reaching the Unalaska and Nikolsky areas there, along and mostly south of the Aleutians. Moderate chop on the increase here for the Arctic coast and maybe the North Slope. Also with wind max here through the north central interior, as well as along and off the southeast coast, occasional moderate chop, mechanical turbulence southwest of Kodiak Island. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Two parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. Water. A drop can indicate coming rain. A mist can be refreshing. A river can power an entire community. The ocean can inspire awe in all of us. The forces of nature that create waves also create an inviting opportunity for wholesome entertainment. But on almost any beach in the country, the waves that come crashing ashore could also hide a dangerous and deadly force, the rip current. Few natural events are as powerful as rip currents. The rip current is the coming together of several different forces just a few feet from the beach. First, a sandbar appears offshore. Waves that would normally not break until hitting the beach instead break on the sandbar. The water from the waves is trapped by the sandbar and cannot move naturally back to sea. This creates water that funnels a fast-moving current away from shore. In that short time, anything or anybody caught in this flow of water can be pulled out in the current. That is where the danger comes in.
When a person gets caught in one, maybe they don't even know they're in one, but what's going to happen is they're going to find themselves getting further and further away from shore. If they find themselves in this situation, the first thing they need to do is not panic. That's the #1 rule, don't panic.
Even the strongest and most skilled swimmers can get caught in a rip current. Nationally, more than 100 deaths a year are attributed to rip currents. About 75% of all lifeguard rescues are rip current rescues. Swimmers can find themselves in a hopeless situation if they don't recognize the signs of a rip current and know how to escape its grasp.
The rip currents are fairly slow to form. It depends on the shoreline. Some areas they're very persistent in one place, and other areas they move around all the time. In most beaches, they're not dangerous or present most of the time. It's only under fairly brief periods of time where they really become a threat to people and swimmers.
By knowing the different forces that cause a rip current, you can tell with some certainty where one is flowing away from the beach. But even with that skill, it's always good to swim near a lifeguard station and check with the lifeguard to see if a rip current exists where you plan to swim. The first sign is the sandbar offshore, where you'll see breaking waves in a shallow area. If you see a sandbar, start searching for the other elements that make up a rip current. If one exists, you'll see water and sea foam moving through breakers and farther offshore. You'll then see different colored water beyond the surf. The water will actually highlight the narrow currents.
There are a lot of subtle indicators that a rip current is present and that it may be a threat. Some of those indicators are more turbid or dirtier water that shows up with farther outside the surf zone particularly. You see it out beyond the breakers, and that's a good indicator that there may be a rip current present.
Rip currents can occur anywhere along the shoreline. Swimmers should be especially cautious around jetties or piers. But there is one warning sign that will leave you with no doubt. When you see warning flags, which can differ in look and style from beach to beach, it means one thing: don't swim. The rip current can kill.
The red flags are there for your safety. Each morning, each one of the beach patrol services on the Outer Banks has a supervisor who gets up and checks the water conditions.
If we feel like the water conditions are such that are a danger to your personal safety, we put the red flags up.
Ultimately, there may be a time when you become caught in the rip current. If you're caught in a rip current, the one key rule to remember is to not swim against it. Swim parallel to the shore. You'll either swim out of the current or swim until the current itself dissipates.
A lot of people think that when they're in a rip current, they can't get back to shore, and that scares them. And they think that they can't get back to shore where they are and also all up and down the beach, and that's not true. It's just maybe 50 yards wide where the rip current is. If you swim parallel 50 yards one way or the other with the beach, it doesn't matter, then it's a lot easier to swim back to shore.
Most rip currents dissipate after about 50 to 75 yards. Then you can swim parallel to the shore. Do not hesitate to wave to get help. Drop by drop, the ocean's water is enjoyable, powerful, and at times can be dangerous. The beaches of the Atlantic are some of the most beautiful in the country and provide enough physical challenges and pure fun to enjoy without risking your life by swimming in a rip current. Study the facts and be careful. Parents should make themselves aware of the conditions of the water before letting their children swim. And when children are swimming, parents should keep a sharp eye on them all the time. We want you to enjoy your time in the waters of the Atlantic. But before you do, check the conditions. Make sure no rip current or any other dangerous conditions exist by checking with the lifeguard.
I think the best thing that people can do is always find out where the lifeguard stand is, swim in front of the lifeguard stand, and when you get onto the beach, before you get in the water, walk up to the lifeguard, ask them, are there any problems with the water that day?
When you come down on vacation, you just really need to be smart about the ocean. Speak to your lifeguard, and by understanding is your best defense against this ocean, and understanding can be talking to that lifeguard.
Swim with a buddy, swim in your ability, and don't take chances. We want everybody to come down and have a good time and leave safe.
It's an easy thing to do, and when you are sure the water is safe, the ocean will be yours to cool off in and enjoy for years to come.
Welcome back. Yesterday, I thought there were going to be gale force winds coming back into the southern coast, but now today it only looks like small craft advisories. Southeast 20 over the inside waters, east-northeast 15 to 20 knots to the north, and then 20 to 25 knots there. Could be small craft advisories to the north coast. Well, it will be small craft advisories due to those seas above 8 feet. And then for Monday, lighter winds coming in now over the southern areas. Tomorrow the jet's shifting eastward, and so a break showing up here over the southern areas, and still in that 20 knot range, that one trough rotating northward throughout the day. Southwest behind the trough, could be southeast 20 in advance of it, but lighter winds over the inside waters. Cook Inlet, northerlies 10 to 15, 20 to 25 here across the Barren Islands, small craft advisories. And with that front pulling to the northwest here, look for small craft advisories to come into the eastern and central North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound, northeast 15, higher gusts. Kodiak Island, 15 to 20 knot winds, more westerly at about 20 on Monday there. Southwest 15 for Shelikof Strait. And starting out 25, then coming down to about 15 here for the Barren Islands in the afternoon. And southerlies for the North Gulf Coast, again, depending on how strong that low is that develops. It pulls up to the northwest here. Depends on the wind speed there, but light and variable winds for Cook Inlet. Out over Bristol Bay, northwest 15 knots. Not good direction-wise all along the peninsula, but a little stronger still. Small craft advisory Sitkinak to Sand Point here, 20 knots to the west. And those winds come down to 20 knots there southwest of Sitkinak, 15 knots from the west on the Pacific side of the peninsula. Northwesterlies 10 to 20 there for the Bering Sea side, lightest toward Bristol Bay. The Aleutians, westerlies 25 knots coming in, that low center to the south, so kind of a east-northeast 20 to 25 knot type wind there for the Fox Islands tomorrow. And 25 knot westerlies break through south of Adak and Atka, extend on back out to the west, northeast there across on Alaska. And for the Bering Sea, small craft advisories, freezing spray, St. Lawrence Island, lighter as you're going down the coastline, just 10 knots for the Pribilos, that ridge axis shifting eastward, north 20 for St. Matthew Island. And no change up here with the northern Bering Sea for Monday, but the wind's picking up a little bit there around Nunivak Island. Definitely picking up for the Pribilos, northwest 25 knots. And for the Arctic coast, gales on the east side, small craft advisories on the west side, and Kotzebue Sound under 20 knots, and then small craft advisories back for that western zone. And then on Sunday, Monday, okay, gale force winds for the Arctic coast from Cape Lisburne all the way to Demarcation Point, 40 knot winds on the east side. Otherwise, snow along the coast and a ways inland there. Pretty nice over the interior, although an area of clouds and light snow showers there along the Alaska range. And that front pushing up over the southeast coast, another wave zips up the coastline tomorrow. Again, small craft advisories. Strongest winds, though, over the eastern areas, and kind of scattered snow showers over the southwest interior. Here's this system driving eastward with a low center, staying to the south of the Aleutians there. This next one will be taking off to the southeast as well. So by Monday, high pressure redevelops out over the western Bering Sea. Strong northerly winds a little further to the west now, with low pressure pulling back up over Cook Inlet for increasing clouds and showers. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.